Interference, it's back. This is going to be the second video in a two-parter on interference and how it affects your guard line. If you haven't watched, please check the link above for the first video that we made. In this video, we're going to talk about all the things that are preventing your signal from going from your sensor inside the home to your receiver, but this is just the things outside. Keep watching. What is interference outside the home? Parked cars, a hill, lots of trees or just a few trees, or the tree that it's put on. Speaking of, before you mount your sensor onto that tree or post and think you're good to go, check that the signal from your sensor is reaching your receiver every time. I'm going to cover this in the video we're about to watch, but that's my biggest tip is before you get your drill out, before you get your hammer, before you put that thing on the post, make sure the signal is making it every time, because it's kind of a hassle to double check interference once it's drilled in and installed on your post, because you may need to put it in a different spot. Watch the video and I'll follow up with you after.
The first thing I want to look at when I think my set isn't working ideally is I want to go outside and I want to check my sensor. I want to make sure the sensor is going off, I want to make sure it's looking in the right direction, and I want to make sure it has its best shot of getting that signal into the house to my receiver. So the first thing I'm going to do when I walk up to my sensor is I'll wave my hand in front of it. I'll make sure the sensor responds. I might do that 3 or 4 times to make sure it's working. When I know for sure my sensor is working, I'm going to look at how my sensor is mounted and where it's looking. The most common placement for your sensor is about 90 degrees across the driveway. We actually recommend you might move that to about 45 degrees, giving that angle a better shot of picking up that motion as it comes down the driveway, a longer period of time to be in the eye. You also might want to put your sensor as close to the entrance of your driveway as possible, so that when a vehicle turns into it, it's going to be slower and it's going to be in the eye viewing area longer. When I have it set up in the spot I want it to be in, where I know it's picking up motion successfully, I need to then consider any interference around my sensor that could be cutting down the signal strength from my sensor into the house to my receiver. That could include whatever it's mounted to. If you have it mounted to a large tree, make sure that that tree isn't also between the sensor and the house. That's very common. If you have it mounted to an outside garage or an outdoor structure, make sure the signal doesn't also have to go through that structure if you can avoid it. We've designed this to be really reliable and rated to the distance that it will work at consistently, but you sometimes need to do a little bit of thinking about where you have it set up to make sure that it has the best opportunity to get that signal from your sensor into the house. So I'm going to make sure it works, that the signal's going off all the time. I'm going to make sure that it's looking in the best spot to see that motion for as long as it can. And I'm going to make sure that there's nothing around that I can avoid that's going to cut down on that signal strength. After I've made sure that my sensor is good to go, I'm going to go inside the house. I'm going to look at my receiver. Now, when we troubleshoot our receiver, we're really troubleshooting the interference, anything that's inhibiting the sensor from my outdoor signal coming inside. So the first thing I do, and I tell this to everybody who calls, I put batteries in the receiver, I walk the receiver outside, and I put it right out in front of the house. And I test the signal between the sensor and the receiver without the house involved. This is another great way to test any interference outside, like a heavy wooded area or any outbuildings, structures that might be between the sensor and the house itself. When I'm getting 100% between the sensor and the receiver just outside the house, I'm going to bring it back into the house.
We've tried to give you a few tips on troubleshooting interference. We want you to know that we're available to you and that we understand how frustrating this can be, and we want to help you out. So before you get frustrated, give us a call or send us an email. You can even reach out to us. Reach out on Facebook. We don't mind. We'll chat with you and take it public. We want you to know interference is frustrating and we get it, but we're here to help you out. We hope this video was helpful. Please, again, watch our first video on interference inside the home if you have any questions about that too. As always, be safe out there, and thanks for watching.